Now it's a very tragic thing because you can't spend your life just for a job. You want to do something, then you have to think beyond that. And I found this in Indians, even in America. In the classroom, after every class I finished, and the course I finished, I used to ask the students, now that you're graduating and you're going out, what kind of job are you looking for? Will you go for a job where you take risks and you might become like Rockefeller or Ford or the owner of Microsoft? Or you might fall flat and go be out on the street. Would you touch that kind of job? Or a job where every year your salary increment will be increased by 2%, gratuity, provident fund, and at the age of 60 you will get it all, and you will retire, buy a house and watch television for the rest of your life. The American students used to ask me, what's the probability I'll fall flat on my face and be out on the street before I can answer you? But the Indian, without asking this question, used to say, second job is the best. So I used to say, but that's guaranteed poverty. Why would you want that? And they said, it is guaranteed. That's the important part. This craze for stability is what is the most dangerous. So first thing is, want to motivate somebody, teach him, encourage him to take risk. Not wild risk, but risk. You can never tell. But you can take risk only if your mindset becomes different. And there, I don't know about other religions, but I do know that Gita teaches you how to be happy. How to do something without suffering for it. It says that, Bhagavan Krishna says, you have freedom in this life only to take action. You have no claim on the reward of that action. If you do good deeds, I'll keep an account, and somewhere or the other, I will reward you. If you do bad deeds, you will suffer. May not be immediately, but sooner or later you will suffer. This is called the law of karma. Now if you accept that, then you can never be unhappy. Because if you have the satisfaction that I did exactly what I wanted to do, the action I needed to take, I took it. I did my best, I put my best ability for it to achieve this goal, but the goal was out of my hands, but I'm not unhappy because I've done my best. But most of us think in terms of, I am a failure because I'm incompetent, that's why I didn't achieve this goal. I can never tell, for example, that if your goal is not achieved, is that good or bad? I was a professor at IIT, full professor, at a very young age of 28. By Indian standards, that's really young because you could never become professor till 45. I don't know, Bhagavadgeetha might be an exception. But generally people become, it's a slow process. But I had already been professor there, so they had to make me professor here. Within 1 year, Mrs. Gandhi took the other Miss Gandhi, not this one. This one also has taken a dislike to me. She also took a dislike to me. I wrote a book against the Soviet economic system. I said, you will always grow at 3.5% per year if you have a Soviet economic system. Bring in the market system, you will grow at 10%, which as a minister I was able to do. Later on, some 40, 30 years, 25 years later. But At that time, the Soviets had a tremendous influence, so Mrs. Gandhi was agitated. She denounced me in Parliament. Everybody took the cue, and one day I was fired at 5 o'clock. At 5:15, I got a letter saying, "You're no more professor from 5 o'clock." I went and told the director, "How can you dismiss me like this? This is not a dukan that you can send out a chaprasi whenever you like." He said, "I got orders from the top, so you go to court." I went to court, but I didn't get immediate relief. For 22 years I fought in court, and I won after 22 years. And the IIT had to return all my back salary for 22 years. In the meantime, because I couldn't get a job and I didn't want to go back to America, Jansangh was a party in those days. They took a liking for my views on Swadeshi, on atom bomb and so on. They sent me to Rajya Sabha. And thereafter I came to Lok Sabha when the Janata came. And then I was nominated by the government on the board of governors of IIT Delhi, the very body which dismissed me. So now, if I was a normally brought up person, I would have been upset that I lost a professorship. But today, I feel that's the best thing that happened to me. So I would like to tell you, please work for a goal. Please put your best. Teach people that. But don't be disappointed if you do not achieve your goal, because that is not in your hands. So says Krishna in Gita. Now you'll be surprised that the corporate world today in America is begun to teach this philosophy to its executives. Why? Because they found that when people were holding themselves responsible for failure, there was stress. Stress meant heart attacks. They were losing a lot of good executives at the age of 45 and less. So ultimately they came to this. You go to Sri Ravi Shankar's ashram here in Whitefield. How many foreigners are there? All rich foreigners. Why? I myself asked some of them, why have you come? They said, well, we made a lot of money, but we are not happy. And what Sri Ravi Shankar says, now we know what happiness is. And what does Sri Ravi Shankar says? That results are not in your hands. And that has made them happy. You can see one thing in Google. There is a famous film actress called Julia Roberts. I don't know whether people have heard of her. She once came for shooting to Haryana, and then she said, I want to go to a particular ashram. So they took her. There she told the chief sadhu, I won't name him, a very well-known person, that I've got all the Oscars I want, I've got all the money I could make, but I'm not happy. And I heard that in India you teach how to be happy. So he said, well, you'll have to stay here for about 2 weeks. And she stayed, so he taught her pranayam, yoga, mantras, and ultimately the philosophy of our religion. This you can see by going to Google yourself. She left India, went back to America, called a press conference where her husband was standing by and 2 children. She says, I went to India and I finally found out how to be happy. I have told my husband, I've told my children, and all 4 of us today are announcing that henceforth we have given up Christianity and we are Hindus. Now, I'm not saying that you have to become a Hindu to know this. Most of the teachings of Sri Ravi Shankar and all doesn't require that. But she was so overpowered by it. And what day? One simple message. You have freedom of action. Do good action, somewhere you will be rewarded. Do bad action, somewhere you will be punished. With this philosophy, you can never be unhappy. Same thing in your class exams. You do your best. Study hard. Don't go to nightclubs. Don't touch alcohol. Don't touch drugs. So these are habits you have to have as a student. If you can do it and then study regularly. Before class, what the teacher is going to teach, pay attention in class, come back and revise what he has taught you. Then you won't have to study for exams. I have passed through all examinations, and on the day of the examination week I used to be watching cricket. Because I had already prepared, everything was in my mind because I was doing this on a regular basis. How people don't do any studies and then the last minute they do it. So here again I'm saying this is a question of moderation of your life. Now finally, what is intelligence? What you are learning in IIMs is cognitive intelligence. Recognize how products are differentiated, recognize mean variance in stockbroking, inventory control. These are all cognitive sciences. But you cannot be a person, evolved person, till you not only develop cognitive intelligence, but 6 other intelligences which our rishis knew about it, but now is being taught in American universities of education, in the Department of Education. The second intelligence is emotional intelligence, which means how to present yourself to another person so that he doesn't get repelled by you, he doesn't get annoyed by you, he sees the force of your arguments, you convince him. A whole book has now been written on emotional intelligence. You can get that by going to Amazon. Just put emotional intelligence, you'll get not one but many books. Third thing is social intelligence. And that is to modify your aspirations in such a way that society also prospers. Now that requires a new outlook. You know, when I tell my friends about my early experience as a graduate student at Harvard, and I've told this to many audiences, and if you are watching my YouTube, you'll see it there also. When I started becoming graduate student at Harvard, my American classmate asked me, "Can I ask you a question about India?" I said, "What?"